Hello and welcome once again. Anthurium Papa here. Papa to the Anthuriums. No, I did not create all the Anthuriums, but I am here to show you fun ways to care for them and effective ways to care for them. So welcome back. What are we doing here? What are we back for, Papa? What are we got going on? Well, we are back to show you my soil breakdown. Perhaps, in my opinion, one of my most asked questions next to pest control. So I figured, hey, let's get the most asked questions out, the most worrisome aspects of Anthurium care out first, so that way I can have a reference for everybody to go back to and check out and be confident in. So let's break it down. So first things first, what do Anthuriums want? They're looking for a combination of density, moisture, and airflow. They do not want too dense of a soil. They want relatively good airflow within. You know, there's not air flowing through the soil, but we want chunk. We want air within the soil. We want little small pockets, so that way those roots can breathe a little bit. They're not being suffocated by moisture. And last is the moisture itself. We do not want the moisture to stick around in that soil. We want the water to simply water right through and retain just enough. So that is our main goals for our Anthurium. Not too dense, not too moisture retentive, but a relative moisture retention and airflow. We want it to be kind of chunky. We want to have some space for roots to work their way in between. So those are our main goals. Another good way to think about the soil structure is to think about the natural environment that these Anthuriums come from. Many of our velvet leaf Anthuriums, like you see behind me here, are going to come from areas like Colombia and Panama that are very dense, very moist jungles. These babies, they come from the very lowest of the understories, where it's the darkest, where it's the most moist, where things are constantly falling from the upper canopy. Limbs, tree leaves, just vines, everything falling, and stacking and making a very loose, airy soil in an environment that is very moist. So that soil structure is conducive to that high airflow, very moist environment. So that is what we're kind of trying to replicate at home, but it needs to live in a much more ambient environment. For at least for me, my goal for my Anthuriums is to get them out into an ambient environment and get them to live out with me rather than solely in a tent. So that's my goal. And yes, keep in mind, I do live in Florida, so yes, my ambient temperature is going to be a bit higher, especially compared to those in the north and compared to those in wintertime. But consistently, I am about 30% to 45% humidity. So you see, it's certainly not an unattainable goal when it comes to humidity. So I encourage everybody to keep track of those numbers and see if you fall within those parameters. You should be good to pull your Anthurium out into ambient care and see how that works for you. So what are some common soils you are going to see individuals in the community, Anthurium community? What are you going to see them using? You know, what is going to be the predominant soil usage? Well, first things first, you're going to see big greenhouse growers. They're going to be growing in a what looks like soil structure. This could be a cocoa peat structure. This could be a just a regular soil that's amended with with a bark or perlite structure just to make it a bit chunkier. But in a greenhouse environment where they're getting watered several times a day, very hot, very high airflow, this is very conducive to that environment. Our at-home structures soil structures wouldn't work so well in that greenhouse environment. So that's why it's good to pay attention where you're getting your individual Anthuriums from. If they do come from a greenhouse, then you're going to make sure to get it, if you're planning on putting it into a home environment, get it transferred into a home environment soil. And luckily that is what we are covering today. Another common soil used, or I should say soil-less mixture used, is pon. Pon is made up of pumice, lava rock, and zeolite. So these are all chunky rock materials that you would need to put into some kind of self-watering pot or keep a reservoir at the bottom at all times. That's kind of two alternative ways you can go with using pon, self-watering use it as a pot, but you still need to put a large reservoir down below to make sure it has constant access to water. Pond visually is kind of hard to keep track of moisture level, so really it's the reservoir that we're paying attention to. Pond does come both fertilized and unfertilized, so do pay attention to that as well. Personally, I do not like using it. I find that my anthuriums focus too hard on root growth and less on foliage. They will tend to take out foliage more prolifically than it would in like a tree fern soil like I use. So that's why I focused away from pond. I use pond solely on my allocations at this point, but there are many awesome growers that choose to grow solely in pond just for the simple access of putting in self-watering pots and extending that watering cycle. Me, I'm a bit more hands-on. I do have a bit more time to go through and hand water all my individuals, check on them, see how they're doing. Some people don't, some people who have day jobs, so that alternative works quite well for them. Another option is a chunky soil. So I choose, or I say usually about a 3 to 4 part soil, starting with a size 3. A size 3 perlite is a great starting point. So when I say size 3, this is the exact size that we're shooting for to standardize across those 4 to 3 pieces, whatever you choose. That's going to make sure that of that size 3 perlite, your orchid bark, your leca, your zeolite, your lava rock, any of the above that's gonna be chunky. There's so many chunky options, y'all, you already know. There's just a long list of chunky options. As long as you're forming a 3 to 4, again, you're gonna have to most likely keep a reservoir down below, not to the same extent that you have pond. You can still water through that chunky mix. It still just gets a little hard keeping track of, again, how moist that soil is. So clear pots really help that. A saucer down below, when it dries out, well, you can kind of deduct that, okay, I'm pretty sure that inner soil, it's a playing process. You're gonna have to start learning. You're gonna see a little bit of damage initially until you learn that process, because it is much harder to learn the actual retention longevity or a retention of moisture over a time period. So the final one that I'd like to talk about, and what I use predominantly, is tree fern soil. Tree fern itself, it comes from New Zealand, is produced almost solely in New Zealand. So one source location, but we can take solace in knowing that we are not polluting the environment, that we can have this soil as a sustainable soil over time. So I love that portion of it. So I don't use tree fern just by itself. What I do is I use a perlite and orchid bark amendment, and it changes throughout the process, or the size of those 2 amendments changes throughout the age of the Anthurium. So why do I use tree fern soil? The ease of use for me, and cost effectiveness, those go together for me. Ease of use, it's terribly easy to use. I simply wet it down to make sure it's not dry, make sure it doesn't produce the cloud of dust, kind of like perlite does. Just simply wet it down and you're good to go. The cost effectiveness, yes, it does seem a bit expensive, but it is, to another point, reusable. I have batches of soil that I've reused with little to no breakdown at all. So that's what I really like. Not only is the tree fern itself renewable, but I can use it for quite a long time, from plant to plant to plant. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That's what I thoroughly enjoy about tree fern soil, as opposed to something like sphagnum, which isn't particularly good for the environment. There are some other aspects of even perlite I've heard is not particularly great for the environment. So it's making sure that we try to be as sustainable and responsible as possible, because we already know plant care is not the most environmentally friendly at times. So we try our best. to do practices, like I explained last in the pest control video. Try to use natural alternatives, try to do this as ethically as possible if we can. All right, next, let's dive down. I'm gonna show you in one of the trays that I work in almost 100% of the time, how I show you my ratios, how I do my ratios, just so you can get an idea in your head for all my visual learners, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because you know, in my lives, in my Palm Street lives, I'm constantly talking about, this is this, you need this soil mixture, you need to make sure that everything matches. Sometimes I just throw a lot of information at you and you just need to see it in front of your face. So that's what I'm here for. I am also a visual learner, so let's get to it. Let's dive down. Alrighty, y'all, here we are down in my work tub. This is where I like to do all my repots, a nice wide area, nice waterproof area. It's nice and sturdy. Put it up on a dinner table, like a little stand, and go about my repotting day. So I have some different examples of different size structures that I use here to give you an idea of what different sizes I'm talking about, matching different sizes in your substrate, as well as you see I have gloves on. So with tree fern, my hands tend to get a little scratchy. There tends to be small little bits in there that stab my skin. I said, we'll just go glove up. I would suggest you do the same to prevent that, but to each their own. So let's break it down. First things first, the two sizes of perlite that you're going to want to have on hand predominantly are going to be your size 2 perlite and your size 3 perlite. And you can even tell sitting side by side the size difference. Size 3 is double the size of size 2 perlite. And why I keep these two on hand is for my 2 stages of growth, and I'll show you, I'll break it down for you. And next, the 2 sizes of orchid bark I suggest you have on hand are from Orchiata, and they do their sizes in names. So this is classic size, and this is power size. So you can see again, about double the size between the classic and the power. All right, and next you're gonna see that my classic orchid bark and my size 3 perlite are very close together in size, almost exactly the same size. And that is what we're aiming for when I say I would like to have these sizes as close to the same size as possible. That is why I choose these for these sizes. Again, this bark is from Orchiata, and if I didn't say, the perlite is actually from Mother Earth in size 3, and the size 2 perlite is from Supreme Perlite. Everything that I use is actually linked in my Instagram, Anthurium Papa. I'm gonna start trying to throw more links in the comments down here as well, so that we have access to those as well, in the bio, I should say. So, what is my first mix? What is gonna get us started for a seedling, say? The first time around, starting off, well, this is that mix here. This is a 4-to-1 tree fern to number 2 perlite. So that looks something like this. It's maybe even a little heavier on the perlite side, but how I go about creating this mixture is I choose a standardization or a cup size, something like this. 1 cup size. You can go larger cup depending on the receptacle you're working in, depending on the size of the repot. But the ratio is what we're shooting for. So we are shooting for a 4-part to 1 part tree fern to number 2 perlite. So 4 of these to 1 of these in the number 2 perlite. You should end up coming with something pretty close to this. A little heavier on the tree fern, but this is what I'm predominantly the mix I'm going to be growing my seedlings in. My 1-leafers, and this is going to get me all the way up to about 3 to 5 leaves, depending on species, depending on how voracious they are rooting within that pot. So this is my initial starter seedling mix. This is gonna get you all the way up to about 3 to 5 leaves. Once you hit that mix, you're gonna notice that your roots have gotten very much bigger with each successive root formation. So naturally, we're going to have to go up to the next breakdown, which is 5 to 6 leaves to cataphyll. It is going to be a 4 to 1 to 1 ratio. The 4 ratio is our tree fern. The 1 ratio is our number 3 perlite. And the other 1 ratio is our classic orchiata bark. So this combination here is going to make up my longest term soil. So it's gonna take you from, like I said, 3 to 5 leaves all the way up to cataphyll. And cataphyll just means your plant is now mature and will start flowering here soon. It's producing large leaves. So for that, as I said, that is going to be 4 parts tree fern to 1 part 3 perlite to 1 part classic orchiata bark. Now for my adults, what I'm going to do, and that's going to be cataphyll and beyond. When we're filling almost 3-gallon pots, 2-gallon pots, big pots. I'm going to up my size of orchid bark to the power and up the ratio of perlite. I do not have an exact ratio at this point for these because at that stage it is very per Anthurium species. Some will like it chunkier, some will like it denser. This kind of leads directly into the point of there is no one soil. If this breakdown leads you to believe anything, there's no one soil, because as Anthuriums change, as they develop, well, they're going to create larger roots. Larger roots are going to need larger, chunkier soil structure. So we need to follow along such as that. So no one soil is going to cover that chunkiness. You're always going to have to add or take away or mess with that structure to make it work with your Anthurium. So that's why I always tell people, go ahead and have all this on hand rather than buying a pre-made route. No shade on the pre-mades, but we need to make sure that we're taking care of each species properly. And we already know, if we have large collections, that each species grows very differently and has very different needs when it comes to their density of soil structure. This is a pre-made batch of my post 5 leaves into cataphyll. Like I said, this is a predominant mix that you're going to see and use in your collection. You can see it's quite chunky, but all the actual sizes are the same size. So that's going to create the same size pockets throughout your soil structure. And that is why I stress on having the same size bark to same size perlite, because you're gonna create the same size gaps. If you were to use a smaller perlite and a larger bark, all you're doing is filling in the spaces in between and filling in the gaps that you are trying to create. So we wanna try to avoid that with any chunky soil, but especially with Anthurium soil. So these combinations and keeping track of development, leaf size, root size, and combining that with size of my perlite, size of my orchid bark as they grow, I've found the most success. I have found the most rapid root growth, the most consistent and rapid leaf sizing. So they love it. This is in combination with everything else that I use, what I feed, every watering cycle, what I feed monthly with Myco. Again, if you are curious about anything that I use, please follow me on Instagram, Anthurium Papa. You will see in my links, drop down links, everything that I use, including pest control, like the last video, day-to-day items, all the above, all the above. So if you do have any questions on any of those, feel free to reach out. Additionally, what you will see on there is links to my website. My website has merch, my website has pots, my website has many, many things. So go check it out. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought about this video. Was it educational? Did it help you? Do you use tree fern soil? What do you use? How do you use it? Let me know in the comments. Let's learn from each other, y'all. We obviously, myself and my community, we love sharing information. We love kicking down the gates. We love making sure that there are no held back information. We want to make sure that overall the Anthurium community is growing, that the Anthurium community is positive, and that we are willing to share information back and forth, because overall we are looking to make connections. What is being human for? Making connections, making friends. Well, these plants are only a catalyst to help do that. So guys, please get in the comments, get on my Instagram, let me know how I did, let me know how this video is, let me know if it helped you. If you're already using tree fern soil, how's it working for you? Did you make the switch? Was it scary? Well, let us know, let us know. So guys, thank you so much. Please subscribe, please like all the videos, please check out all the videos, let me know how they're doing, let me know how you're doing. Reach out if you have any problems with your Anthuriums. I know, it sounds crazy to have someone available for your Anthurium issues. Well, I'm here for you. I am here for you. Make sure when you reach out that you send me pictures, that you let me know how you're caring for your baby, yellowing leaves. Let me know what you're feeding them. Is it crunchy leaves? Are you feeding them this one? Are you feeding this? What kind of quality water are you using? Yes, it does matter what kind of water that you're feeding your babies. So we will cover that. We will cover that in future videos. We're hopefully going to cover many, many things in the future. So guys, please come back, hang out for more. I would love to see you again. Keep growing forward. Thank you. Bye.